Do you guys see a difference in these two pictures? On the right you see Stephen Hawking, and on the left you see Catherine Zeta-Jones. Most people who look at these two pictures say that they do see a difference. It's pretty evident that Stephen Hawking has a physical disability, and from this picture it seems that Catherine Zeta-Jones is relatively normal, doesn't really have anything wrong with her in this picture. Well, if you were to do a little bit more research, you would find out that that's wrong. Catherine Zeta-Jones has actually been diagnosed with bipolar II disorder, which is classified as a mental illness distinguished with periods of mania and depression. Stephen Hawking has been diagnosed with a disease called motor neuron disease, which is related to ALS, and it is characterized by progressive weakening of muscles, muscle atrophy, and difficulty speaking, breathing, and swallowing. So when most people think of mental illnesses, what do you think they picture? In a lot of cases, they picture people who are lunatics or crazy or insane, as you can see from the pictures behind me. They are characterized by being in straitjackets and that kind of a thing. Well, how did this come about? How did this stigma come to the forefront of society? Well, back early in the 1900s and even before then, people who were trying to understand what mental illness was couldn't figure it out. There weren't enough advances in technology and medicine to know why mental illnesses occur the way they do, what happens in the brain, and why people act the way they do when they have a mental illness. And so, like many times they did in society in those days, they would look to their religion to explain what's going on. So a lot of times they said that people who were acting crazy or were lunatics or retards were possessed by the devil. So that's a lot of the reason why it was caused by that. But in reality, that's not true, as we know today in our advances in technology and medicine. You can see there are 3 reasons why people develop mental illness. The first is genetics. A lot of it has to do with hereditary genes. And if your parent, like your mother or your great-grandfather, had bipolar, schizophrenia, chances of you developing that mental illness are greater. You're more likely to be predisposed to this illness. And the reason why it happens is there is a chemical imbalance in your head, and it happens it's just what happens. It's not something you can control, it's biology. It has nothing to do because you did something wrong, you got a bad grade on a test, or you hit your head, or it has nothing to do with what you do physically. The second influence on mental illness is the environment. So if you, for instance, you live in Asia and you work in the rice fields, that's gonna have a different impact on your lifestyle and the chances of you getting a mental illness if you were to, say, be a politician in America. The stress levels are different, the environment's different, everything is different. So those also have an impact on the chances of you getting a mental illness. And the last factor is social influences. This has anything to do that directly affects you. So if you were abused, if you were raped, if you have a teen pregnancy, even if you have an abortion, if you adopt, or if you give your kid up for adoption, or if you keep the child, those all have psychological impacts on you as a person. So those are the influences that can cause mental illness in today's society, as opposed to being possessed by the devil. And the reason why it's important for us to realize that we should not treat people as if they're crazy and lunatics and retards is because a lot of the times when people have these illnesses, they just need somebody to reach out to them. A lot of times it's just asking someone, what's going on? Why are you having a bad day? What's going on with you? And a lot of times that can just help the person who has a mental illness. Of course, it's not going to cure their disease, but a lot of times it can stop them from a fatal consequence, or it can help them get through the week or the month or the day. It doesn't matter, but a lot of times just being there for a person is what the person with the mental illness needs. They need somebody to rely on. They need somebody to know. They need to know that somebody thinks it's okay for them to be the way they are, and that will help them a lot in their recovery to a healthy life. Thank you.